Welcome back to this special Facebook Live presentation and celebration of Harry Chapin's 75th birthday. And again, we're celebrating his birthday because we know he's in spirit and we really want him to share the love and the warmth. And our next guest really encapsulates all of that love and warmth. She's the powerhouse of Long Island in many ways. That being Susan Miller, who has had so many connections to the Long Island community through her work with the Harry Chapin Food Bank and Long Island Cares, and with the Huntington Arts Council. How are you doing today, Susan?
I'm well. How are you?
Doing well. Why don't you take us back and tell us a little bit of the history? How did you kind of get involved in this crazy Harry community?
Well, it started, I had been doing a lot of fundraising through my kids' school and other activities here in Huntington. And I had met Sandy doing some projects with a mutual friend, Francine Rexer. And one day, out of the blue, Sandy's office called me to see if I would chair the first annual Harry Chapin Humanitarian Award dinner, which I did. That was, I'm a little confused. I don't remember if it was 90 or 91, but I did the dinner, and then I was invited to join the board of Long Island Cares. And from there, I'm still on the board. I became, after a couple of years, I became the chair of fundraising. I was in charge of all the fundraising events for Long Island Cares. At that time, we did not have a development office. So it was me and my committee of friends doing everything.
Yep.
Even the dinner, we would have, 300, 400, 500 people come to a dinner, and we did everything. We worked out of my basement with fax machine back in the day. We just did everything ourselves. It was quite an experience. So I was the chair of fundraising, then I became the vice president of Long Island Cares, and then the president. But in the 90s, I believe I did 9 Harry Chapin Humanitarian Award dinners. Also, we worked on the Harry Chapin 5K run, Care Meal, all the projects that Long Island Cares was doing. Then in the 2000s, I did a couple of dinners again, and then I just did 2015 and 2016. And then one day, maybe 10 years ago, Sandy called me up and she said, "You need to go on the Huntington Arts Council board. They need your help." So I did. So I was on the board for 10 years. I recently received the Harry and Sandy Chapin Humanitarian Award from them.
Wow.
Yeah, because, but I do want to say, my involvement with Long Island Cares got me into a group of people like Harry, like do-gooders, people that wanted to give back, that had a sense of community. And that's been my environment here, my community on Long Island. There's still people in my group that still do fundraising with me. I had an event last night. I'm the president of another organization I can speak to about that really came out of Long Island Cares and their programs, and it's directly from Harry. Those people worked with me in the 90s, and that group, the people who worked with me on my committees all those years, they've gone on to start their own foundations, do their own committee work, giving back, and it's all because of that involvement in the beginning. And I've been told, and I don't like to take personal, but I've been told numerous times that I've been their mentor, but it wasn't from me, it was from Harry's spirit.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, before that first conversation with Sandy, did you really know about Harry and the whole thing he was involved in, not only just from a music standpoint, but from his social activism?
Yes, I knew a little bit about Harry. Actually, when we moved out to Huntington, we lived pretty close to where the Chapin house was.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, it's like you heard about
You kind of hear about it, yeah.
And I was also doing some things for working on projects for the Huntington Coalition for the Homeless, which doesn't exist anymore. So yeah, I had known things
Wow.
that I had done, yeah.
So through all that, all the things that you've been involved in, what's been kind of the key message you've come away with working with all this group of Harry followers and folks that have been involved from the food bank world and the Arts Council? Is there a sense that you've kind of come away from that you kind of take with you everywhere, particularly with like some of the new things you're involved in?
I think it's just this sense that I don't even know how to say this. It's like one person can make a difference, one person at a time, one person touching another person, in that giving them the opportunity to do a good deed, to come out of their box, to create change in the world, because it's really like that pebble, right?
Right.
That expands. And I think that that's probably something that I got out of Harry. You know, I know you probably heard this many times today, but Harry was to me a changer, and he created the opportunities for people. And even though he left us so soon, he created an opportunity for all of us to do good work, to continue his legacy. You know, so that to me is like a really important part of my life. Like, I want to be remembered when I leave this world as somebody who's changed the world, that has given a positive thing on the world, that added something.
So beyond that role model that Harry's provided, what about the music part of it? Have you learned to grow into that as well?
Yeah. You know, in the beginning, I knew about Taxi and Cats in the Cradle. And yeah, when I got to know Sandy and we started working on the first Harry Chapin Humanitarian Award dinner, I started listening to Harry's music. And to this day, when I'm like down or I need an inspiration, or I listen to Harry's music, and it still inspires me.
So, and from that, in terms of the music and what he's done, I get the sense, it sounds like some new things you're getting involved in, that you're willing to take that step forward, not worried too much about fear of failure and all of that. He kind of gives you a little bit of self-confidence that you can actually pull these things off.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I've got involved I've been going to India for the last 20 years. And I go to a region where it's the second lowest rainfall in all of India. And there's a lot of farmer suicide and a lot of abuse of women. And my group and I here support an orphanage that takes care of about 50 kids.
Oh my gosh.
Raise money, yeah. And in 2014, because of the situation there and all the farmer suicides, with the director of the orphanage, we came up with an idea. And it came from Long Island Cares. It's the New Paths to Achievement program, where we started a women's initiative to train women to create products to achieve self-sufficiency, self-reliance. Yeah.
So how did that effort at Long Island Cares connect to something in India? What was that connection?
Well, Long Island Cares has had it's not just about food.
Right, sure.
More than food to feed the hungry.
Oh, absolutely.
It's about self-reliance, self-sufficiency, giving people the tools. You know, the children in the orphanage are going to English schools. They are being tutored. The women that we're training have never taken care of themselves. You know, there's a whole culture of, you know, women.
Right.
Yeah. So we are taking these women, these abused women, and teaching them how to be self-sufficient.
Yeah, how would you, if, and I'm sure you get that, it sounds like some of the groups that you're working with now, what do you give them in terms of advice, in terms of taking that step, and don't be afraid to try it? Because, I mean, boy, taking that leap to go start working on an issue in India, that's like kind of, whoa, I don't know if I can get my mind around that.
Well, I think the greatest thing that I've learned is that people inherently are good, and people, I believe, have a sense of wanting to do something, of being able to change the world. They just don't know how. So when you can express to somebody that, yeah, you can do it, you know, put your fears aside. There's many times people will say, I don't know how to ask somebody for money. I don't know how to ask for support. And I say, you're giving them an opportunity to help. You're actually doing them a favor.
Yeah, absolutely.
Don't be afraid.
Okay. No, that is awesome. That is just such a great story to hear how you started from just a simple conversation and it's expanded to all these amazing things over the course of these last, 15, 20 years now, I guess. That's just a wonderful thing. Really appreciate your time today and sharing your stories about how Harry, even though you never really met him, right? Yeah. Still influenced you every day.
He does, yeah, he does. Happy birthday, Harry.
Thank you so much, Susan. And so we're going to be back in just a few more minutes with quite a few more interviews. In the meantime, we hope you take time to go ahead and surf on over to betterplacetobe.org, and we'll see you in a few minutes.